So welcome to the FinDock October 21 release webinar. My name is Stefan. I'm the product manager at FinDock, and I'm here to talk you through the highlights of our October release and share more details and answer questions you possibly have around the release. For everybody who doesn't know me, we do this every release at FinDock. We try to explain to you the releases, the changes we made in the updates, and answer questions. If you have questions afterwards, no problem. Then obviously there's our release notes that are fairly detailed where you can find a lot of the answers, hopefully. But otherwise, please feel free to reach out with your questions or feedback. Happy to get back to you. The important thing to realize about everything we are talking about is that all the functionality we are talking about is already available to you in your sandbox environment for a bit over a week now, or under a week, and will go to production automatically on Sunday night, October 10th. And every release, we give also, next to the overview, we give an update on the statuses of our pilot and beta programs. And with this release, I'm happy and proud to announce that all the pilots that we have run in during the summer period, so let's say Q2 and Q3 this year, are with this release are moving to general availability, meaning that it's available to all our customers. It's functionality that is mature and stable, and that is part of your FinDock subscription. This already included FinDock Pay links, but with this release, it also includes the auto collect functionality, and also the data quality validation features we've had in beta for quite some months now. The other nice thing to share is that we started a new pilot, or we revamped a very old pilot, it's how you phrase it, around SEPA Credit Transfer. But more about that later. For this release, there are 4 highlights I'd like to go over with you. So the first one is we introduced status.findock.com. Then I'd like to, one last time, want to recap the auto collect and the data quality validation functionality and show to you why that's important, or why we see it's important for you or can be important, and share something about SEPA Credit Transfer. Then we have this time a very long list of enhancements and updates we made to several parts of the product. And last but definitely not least is we have some upcoming changes about our release schedule I'd like to make you part of and share our thinking around for the coming year 2022. So let's start with status.findock.com. So in the last month, we launched status.findock.com, which you can go to, and you can use this to see whether or not, for example, the processing hub is up, the web hub is up, whether or not giving pages is still working, but also you can see our upcoming releases. When we made a hotfix, this will be pushed. And the best thing about this is you can go to status.findock.com and you can subscribe to notifications on status.findock.com. And then, for example, when we would push a new release, you will automatically get an email or a Slack notification, or the channel that you prefer will be notified about these changes. So very briefly, I'd like to show you that. So let me quit presenter mode. Here I am at status.findock.com, and you can see currently we're fully operational, but below you see the different components of the FinDock architecture, for example, giving pages. Now, a lot is still gray because it shows from the last 90 days, and we're not live yet 90 days with status.findock.com, but we are operational 100% of the time since we went live, as you can see here. Now, you can also see scheduled maintenance. So you can see that we are going to do a production release on October 10th. But say we uncover a vulnerability we want to fix today, right now. We will also, both for the future if it's scheduled, or in the past when we made an update or a hotfix, we will post it on the status.findock.com list. And if you're subscribed, which you can do here at the top, for example, with your email address or Slack, or your RSS feed, then you get push notifications of this right now. So I highly encourage you all, if this is interesting for you, to subscribe to these updates. And also, if you're a partner, please share this news with your customers, the admins, and the service managers at your customer site. So the second thing we'd like to go over are the pilot and beta updates. And as you may know, there's two betas that go to GA. The first one is the auto collect payments beta. With the auto collect functionality, you can automatically connect. No need for manual operations. So say, for example, you have your direct debits running via GoCardless. You can just say to FinDock, collect every day. And then together with GoCardless, we make sure your direct debits get collected every day. And this works for all recurring payment processors and payment methods that we support. It also works for all the mandate processes. So let's say your DDI acknowledgement process, or your SEPA additional service process in Italy. And last but definitely not least, in the UK market, it also works for gift aid. So if you want to set up automatic gift aid claims directly towards HMRC, for example, weekly, this is the tool to do it. Now it's GA with the October release, and we strongly recommend all customers who are currently starting with FinDock and implementing to start using this feature. In the beta, we've seen great gains and results with the beta customers, and it's our strong recommendation for new customers to start using this out of the gates. Then the second beta that goes from beta to GA is the data validation functionality. And with the data validation functionality, we enable you to assess the data quality before you try to, let's say, for example, build a direct debit file, or do your gift aid claim, or do your recurring card processing. So data quality is a big pain of a lot of our customers. It's a pain for the smaller ones, for the medium-sized, and the larger ones. And with this functionality, we give you insights into what data validation, what does your data need to comply with, your data structure, and B, when you say, I want to collect my direct debits for this month, we validate that data for you in runtime and give you specific feedback on this record is missing this value. Now, we have demoed this a lot, so I'm not going to demo it right now, but we see great adoption in this area. So I already shared this slide with the last release, but in that time, 10 more customers in the last 4 weeks have adopted this functionality, moving up to 45 live customers of FinDock already are using this functionality. And together, they validated over 6 million donations and installments. Now, the really interesting stat here is the 41% you see. This means that in 41% of these validation runs, there was at least one record that would give an error later in the process that we helped you to identify early. And similar to auto-collect, this works for all the recurring payment method and processors that we as FinDock support. So that means that whether you're doing your credit cards via Adyen or Molly or Six, you can use our validation feature functionality to validate the data before you do your monthly or weekly collection runs. Now, with this release, we added also the same functionality to all the mandate processes. So if you, for example, activate your BEX DDIs once a week and bring that to the BEX network, then before you create that standard 18 file, you can now also validate whether or not your mandates are correct and in the right shape and form. I also highlighted here the Box direct debit rule set with FinDock, where we are the processor. And the reason for that is we made updates on that rule set. There was a customer who went live using this processor, and during data migration, they encountered a scenario that well, they were set up. They were having an error that we didn't catch with our validation rules. And we've updated our validation rules to now catch that in the future. And I'm sharing this with you because we are determined and we want to continuously iterate on these validation rules to make them the best they can possibly be. And therefore, when you encounter an issue that was not caught by our validation rules, please let us know, because we want to update these rules and bring them to the best quality we can imagine. How you can get started is really easily. It's already available to you on the standard FinDock layout for mandate schedule and payment schedule. But you can also drag and drop the validation component on the installment or on the mandate layout, and then it will only validate that specific installment or mandate. And again, if you get into a situation where we didn't catch something you think we should have caught, let us know. Last for the pilots is we are actively running a pilot now we call SEPA Credit Transfer. And what does it for you? It's functionality that instead of helping you to collect money, you can instruct your bank to transfer money from your bank account to another bank account. So currently in scope, it's only SEPA, so the generation of SEPA files, and we help you to model this out in the FinDock data model, create a valid SEPA file you can give to your bank to instruct to make the payments, and then get back that reconciliation via your bank statement file, in this case via the CAMT files. And I'd like to show this to you. So here in Salesforce, and I hope you can see my Salesforce org, here in Salesforce, I have an installment of 10 euros, but instead of being receivable where we get 10 euros, this is a payable installment based on the record type. And this means that we are going to pay out 10 euros to the person who is holding this IBAN, this payment profile. And we are paying this out from our own bank account. Now, it works exactly the same way as it would work for a direct debit. You can run a payment schedule to do this. So let's do this right on the screen, right? So I create a payment schedule. I say I want to do this, tomorrow. And it's not a direct debit. No, it's a credit transfer. It's a SEPA credit transfer, and I want to use my, my ING or Rabo or any SEPA bank account. I want to run this today, and I want to select all the installments until tomorrow. And when we create this record, it's just a normal payment schedule. So when I hit start generation, it will, similar to the other payment schedules, it will go through the system. It will select all the installments in the system that are eligible, now based on the different record type, and attach them to this payment schedule. As you can see, it's already done. So when I would go to the related list here, you can see they found the installment I just created as part of this demo prep. And now we can start the validation. And this is really a new big step, because so far the data quality component has been a separate component you can run manually on your front end on the payment schedule layout. But with this release for SEPA credit transfer only, we make this an integral part of the payment schedule process, meaning that we validate the quality of the records after the generation. And then if one of the records was not valid, we would put it to failed and give the error back to you. So instead of having this as an add-on or a potential data validation you can do, it's now an integral part of the process. When all the records attached are valid, you can move on similarly to the process stage, where we go to the processing hub, bring all this data there, and generate this payment file. You've seen this a lot of times, so I will stop here, but here you can see There's a processing hub process running. It's almost halfway. That is fetching the data, compiling it into a valid pane 001 file, and bringing it back to Salesforce. Now, if this is interesting to you as an organization or to a customer you represent, we are keen to understand the use cases you see for this and potentially explore with you whether or not you can be part of this pilot. So if you have questions or feedback, please, feel free to reach out. We are happy to work with you. Now, we want to highlight several other enhancements or bug fixes we made in the last month. And the first one is, last week we published our new gift aid guide, and it's a completely revamped gift aid guide where we took all the technical documentation we already had and we have rewritten it on our documentation website. But we've not only rewritten the technical part, we have added for the first time a lot of functional guidance and examples to it as well. So it's not only how do you manage it in FinDock, it's also what is the process that you're managing from a business perspective. Now, several changes we made are, we added gift aid as one of the main categories to our left-hand menu. And we created articles ordered on the function. So we have created a guide for admins and integrators, and then a guide for business users we call gift aid managers in this case. And then we added a lot of FAQs for commonly asked questions. Now, we are very proud of this guide. So if you're implementing FinDock and gift aid for the first time, but you have questions, please share that feedback with us. But we also hope that this can be an example of how we want to do other areas on our doc site as well. For example, around direct debit payment collection, where we not only do the technical bit on how to operate FinDock, but also more end-to-end business focused, how to do a direct debit run. Secondly, we added support for the Worldpay Business Gateway 350, or as at Worldpay they call it BG 350, which is a different payment processor that is a separate product held by or managed by Worldpay that is very common for the SMB market in the UK. So we already supported Worldpay via the corporate gateway, which was more a high-end focused solution with a price tier that comes with that. And with this addition of the Business Gateway 350 support, we now feel that for our UK customers, we are able to support all kinds of sizes of customers that are doing their payment collection via Worldpay. It's technically part of the same package as the Worldpay corporate gateway. So there's one FinDock Worldpay integration package, but it contains a separate processor for the corporate gateway as for the business gateway. And here's an overview of all other changes, additional bug fixes and enhancements we made. And a few I want to highlight. So the first one is, in the FinDock setup, there's this deploy config button that you can use to update your pick list in Salesforce. And with a recent known issue at Salesforce, there were some stability issues with this. Since this known issue has not closed yet, we have upgraded the way our deploy config button works to work around this ourselves. So I'm happy to confirm that our deploy config button is stable again. Another changes I would like to highlight is that for GoCardless, you're now able, when you use that, to pre-fill the GoCardless hosted payment page with address information that you collected earlier in the donation flow. And we started to iterate and fix enhancements around giving pages. In this case, around the birth date correction and around empty fields that are still accompanied to the giving pages. But we also started doing that because in the coming months, we'd like to iterate, we'd like to spend a lot of time around giving pages to improve that. So I know some of you are working on this really closely at the moment, but if you encounter giving pages in your project and you have a question or feedback, let us know, because in the coming weeks and currently we are working very hard around giving pages to bring that to the next level of maturity. Last, but definitely not least, I'd like to share a little bit around our release schedule currently, and then our plans for the release schedule for 2022. So as you are all aware, currently we have a monthly release schedule where we release every month, except in the summer and in the Christmas holiday period. So 10 times a year. And we then internally work on development for around 4 weeks. And then we deploy it to customer sandboxes and give you 2 weeks the time to digest those changes, look into it, and test if that's something that you'd like to do. You test our functionality, but mainly also obviously in collaboration with your own customizations. And then a new cycle begins. And we'd like to propose for starting next year a change to that. What we'd like to do is, instead of releasing monthly, we'd like to move to a release schedule where we release every 2 months. And then instead of having a 2-week period in customer sandboxes or in your sandboxes, we'd like to move to a 4-week pre-release window in sandboxes, giving you more time to work on this. What doesn't change, obviously, but just to reiterate, is we will still be able to push these changes automatically to you and upgrading to you without you having to step in to do that. But we will do it less often, meaning we would go from a monthly schedule to a bi-monthly, every 2-month schedule. There's 2 big reasons for us to do this. I think the first one is, I know the first one is that 2 weeks is a really short time if you want to do a lot of testing. And with our number of live customers growing rapidly, we know we put you on a time schedule that's not, that's very hard to keep up with. And therefore we want to move to a 4-week pre-release window. The second reason, the second big reason leading to this change is that we as FinDock also have improved, I think, and matured in the way we release. So we've introduced pilots and betas. We now accompany your release with more than just the tool and the feature, but also with release notes, documentation, enablement, and other kinds of materials. And with that maturity, there also comes the option to release less often. Then you don't have to release every 4 weeks. Even releasing every 8 weeks gives you a bit more time to, in a good manner, be able to sort this out. So those 2 things together lead to the proposal of doing it only once every 2 months instead of monthly, and then having a 4-week customer release window, a customer pre-release window. Now, when exactly we will then, what we will do, when we will plan in this 4 weeks, the release webinar, and we will make the release notes available, we are still ironing out the details of that. So that's why there's asterisks there. But I'd already like to share this with you. And if you have questions about this or feedback, then again, you know where to find us. When you subscribe to status.findock.com now, you will get notifications on upcoming releases and our planning automatically and out of the box, obviously. All we discussed this in the last 20 minutes is also available to you in our release notes in written form and more, obviously. So if you have questions or you're looking into your components and you're saying, hey, I'm a Buckaroo customer, can I see what changed for me? Then please go to our release notes to get insights into more details, specifically for certain bugs, enhancements, and larger features. And with that, we are at the end of this release webinar. Thank you for joining. I will stick around to answer questions if there are any, but thanks again for joining, and I hope you will enjoy your weekends.